South Africa is making a bold move, one that could reshape its energy landscape and shake up global geopolitics. Facing crippling power shortages and an urgent need for reliable electricity, the country has set its sights on nuclear energy expansion. The plan? Add 2,500 megawatts of nuclear power to stabilize the grid, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and end the cycle of rolling blackouts. But the real controversy isn't about the expansion itself. It's about who South Africa is willing to work with. In a move that is sure to raise eyebrows in Washington, South Africa has opened the door to nuclear partnerships with Iran and Russia. Two countries heavily sanctioned by the U.S. Mineral Resources and Energy Minister made it clear. South Africa won't limit its options based on Western pressure. That means Tehran and Moscow could soon be helping to power Africa's most industrialized nation. This decision is more than just an energy deal. It's a geopolitical statement. South Africa, a key BRICS member, is aligning itself with nations that are actively challenging U.S. dominance. But what does this mean for South Africa's future? Here, we would like to take a moment and thank you for supporting us and being a valued part of our strong community. And if you are not yet a member, we encourage you to join us and help build an even stronger community together. Let's get started. South Africa's decision to expand its nuclear power capacity is not just a long-term strategy, it's an urgent necessity. The country has been battling severe energy shortages for years, with daily blackouts crippling businesses, households, and essential services. The economy is struggling under the weight of power cuts, industries are losing billions, and ordinary citizens are left in darkness for hours at a time. This energy crisis has reached a point where bold and unconventional solutions are the only way forward. Nuclear power has emerged as the most viable option, not because it's trendy, but because South Africa has no better alternative if it wants a stable and self-sufficient energy future. For over a decade, South Africa's state-run power utility, Eskom, has been struggling to keep up with the country's electricity demand. The term load shedding, a polite way of saying forced power cuts, has become part of everyday conversation. Businesses schedule their operations around power outages, households keep generators and candles ready, and investors grow wary of South Africa's unpredictable power supply. The situation is so severe that in 2023, South Africans faced over 300 days of rolling blackouts, an economic and social disaster.
Mentally, emotionally, it affected me a lot because I'm drinking a tablet now. Because sometimes you think, even at night you can't sleep. You have to think, what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to please my people that depend on me?
Tammy Mazibuk is another load-shedding victim. He owned his store for more than 28 years now, which has enabled him to pay off his debt and take his children to school and university. But now, a once bustling shopping complex has turned into a ghost town. Mazibuk says, people rarely come to his shop due to load shedding. He says, people don't buy food to cook because there's no electricity.
Very, very badly. Very badly. You can't imagine what's going on here.
Eskom's inability to meet demand is largely due to its aging coal power plants, which still produce over 80% of the country's electricity. These coal plants are breaking down frequently, requiring costly maintenance, and are being phased out due to environmental concerns. South Africa's commitment to reducing carbon emissions also means that coal is not a long-term solution. The government has explored renewable energy like wind and solar, but while these are useful, they cannot provide the constant high-output power needed to run industries, mines, and large urban areas. This is where nuclear power becomes critical. It offers a stable, high-energy output without the problems of coal or the inconsistency of renewables. South Africa already has experience with nuclear energy, making it a more realistic and reliable option than some of the other energy sources being considered. The Coburg Nuclear Power Station, located near Cape Town, has been operating since 1984 and remains the only commercial nuclear power plant on the continent. Despite being nearly 4 decades old, Coburg has proven far more reliable than the country's struggling coal plants. It generates 1,860 megawatts of electricity, making it one of the most stable energy sources in South Africa. The government's plan to add 2,500 megawatts of nuclear capacity is not just about expansion. It's about preventing total grid collapse. Without an immediate energy boost, South Africa risks longer blackouts, more economic damage, and a growing reliance on expensive energy imports. But what benefit does nuclear energy provide? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. As South Africa moves toward expanding its nuclear energy capacity, it is essential to understand why nuclear power is considered one of the most reliable and strategic energy sources for the country. By committing to nuclear energy, South Africa can secure a stable electricity grid, reduce dependence on imports, lower long-term costs, and cut greenhouse gas emissions. Each of these advantages plays a vital role in solving the country's ongoing energy crisis and ensuring a sustainable future. One of the biggest advantages of nuclear power is that it provides a consistent and uninterrupted supply of electricity. Unlike solar and wind, which depend on weather conditions, nuclear power plants operate 24/7, producing energy at full capacity regardless of external factors. South Africa has heavily invested in renewable energy, with solar and wind farms being built across the country. However, these energy sources come with one major problem: variability. Solar power depends on sunlight, which means it stops generating electricity at night or when there is heavy cloud cover. Wind power is unpredictable, producing fluctuating energy output depending on wind speeds. Hydropower, while useful, is limited by South Africa's water shortages. The result is an unstable electricity grid where energy production does not always match demand. Load shedding becomes necessary to prevent grid failures, a problem that has severely impacted businesses, industries, and daily life in South Africa. Nuclear energy eliminates this issue by providing a continuous and reliable energy supply, reducing the need for backup power sources like coal and diesel generators. Additionally, nuclear plants have a high capacity factor, meaning they produce electricity at maximum output for more than 90% of the year. In comparison, solar panels operate at around 20 to 30% efficiency, depending on sunlight availability. Wind turbines operate at around 35 to 50% efficiency, depending on wind conditions. Coal plants operate at around 50 to 70% efficiency, with frequent breakdowns in South Africa's aging plants. With such a high efficiency rate, nuclear power can stabilize the energy grid, reducing reliance on emergency power sources and minimizing economic losses caused by blackouts. South Africa currently relies on coal, imported oil, and electricity from neighboring countries to meet its energy demands. This dependence has made the country vulnerable to global energy price fluctuations, supply chain disruptions, and political instability in energy exporting nations. Nuclear energy presents a unique opportunity for South Africa to become energy independent. By developing a strong domestic nuclear sector, the country can reduce dependence on coal, which is becoming more expensive due to environmental regulations and aging power plants. It can also avoid relying on imported oil and gas, which are affected by global market prices and geopolitical conflicts, and it can eliminate the need for electricity imports from countries like Mozambique, ensuring that South Africa controls its energy production. Currently, Eskom imports electricity from Mozambique's Cahora Bassa hydroelectric plant, which supplies about 1,500 megawatts of power to South Africa. However, hydroelectric power is unreliable during droughts, which have affected southern Africa in recent years. Nuclear energy would allow South Africa to generate all of its electricity domestically, ensuring energy security even during global crises. Furthermore, South Africa is home to large uranium reserves, a critical fuel source for nuclear reactors. If the country develops its own uranium enrichment and fuel processing industry, it could eventually stop relying on foreign nuclear fuel suppliers, further strengthening its energy independence. A common criticism of nuclear energy is that it is expensive to build. While it is true that the initial investment for a nuclear power plant is high, ranging from $5 billion to $20 billion per reactor, the long-term financial benefits far outweigh the costs. Nuclear reactors have a lifespan of 40 to 60 years, meaning they provide decades of stable electricity with relatively low maintenance costs. In contrast, Coal power plants last only 30 to 40 years, with higher fuel and maintenance expenses. Gas power plants require constant fuel purchases, making them vulnerable to global gas price volatility. Solar and wind farms require frequent upgrades and rely on battery storage, which is expensive and limited in capacity. Once a nuclear plant is built, the cost of electricity production remains stable, unlike coal and gas plants that suffer from fuel price fluctuations. This makes nuclear power a financially sustainable option for South Africa, reducing the country's long-term energy expenses. Additionally, nuclear energy has lower transmission costs compared to renewables. Solar and wind farms require large land areas and extensive transmission infrastructure, while nuclear plants can be built close to major cities and industrial hubs, ensuring efficient energy distribution with minimal losses. Apart from this, South Africa's reliance on coal has made it one of the highest carbon emitters in Africa, contributing to air pollution, acid rain, and climate change. The country has committed to reducing its carbon footprint under international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord. But meeting these targets is impossible without replacing coal with cleaner energy sources. Nuclear power offers a zero-emission energy solution, making it a crucial tool in fighting climate change. Unlike coal and gas plants, which release carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen oxides, nuclear reactors produce no greenhouse gases during operation. Another environmental advantage of nuclear power is that it reduces dependence on water-intensive energy sources. Coal power plants require huge amounts of water for cooling, putting pressure on South Africa's already scarce water resources. Modern nuclear reactors use advanced cooling systems that consume far less water, making them a more sustainable option in water-stressed regions. South Africa's push for nuclear energy is not just about increasing power capacity. It's about building a stable, independent, and cost-effective energy future. While nuclear energy is the clear solution, the big question remains: who will help South Africa build its new nuclear plants? Western countries, including the US, have expressed interest, but South Africa is now considering Russia and Iran as key partners. This decision is already causing controversy, as these countries are under heavy US sanctions. But for South Africa, energy security is more important than politics. This is where things get interesting. South Africa isn't just making an energy decision, it's making a geopolitical statement. By working with Iran and Russia, the country is signaling a shift away from Western dependence and towards a BRICS-led future. But is this the best move? And what do Iran and Russia bring to the table that the West doesn't? South Africa's decision to consider Iran as a nuclear energy partner is not just about technology. It is a strategic move that challenges the traditional dominance of Western nations in Africa's energy sector. Despite being under heavy US sanctions for years, Iran has developed one of the most advanced nuclear programs in the global South. This level of self-sufficiency is precisely what makes Iran an attractive partner for South Africa, which is seeking nuclear expertise without Western interference. Iran has successfully built and operated nuclear reactors, including the Bushehr nuclear power plant, the largest in the Middle East. Unlike many other countries that rely on Western nuclear suppliers, Iran has developed its fuel cycle, ensuring that it controls every aspect of its nuclear energy production. This level of independence is appealing to South Africa, which wants to avoid becoming reliant on Western companies that could later impose political or financial conditions on its energy sector. Beyond its nuclear expertise, Iran's experience in overcoming sanctions and building energy resilience is something South Africa can learn from. Iran has been blocked from accessing key nuclear materials, yet it has still managed to develop its reactors and advanced fuel systems. This ability to thrive under pressure aligns with South Africa's growing desire for energy independence. By working with Iran, South Africa could gain access to nuclear knowledge that is not restricted by US or European regulations. This is particularly important in the face of increasing global energy competition, where Western firms often use legal and financial barriers to control nuclear technology access. Iran's willingness to share this expertise with South Africa, especially through the BRICS alliance, adds another layer of strategic importance to the partnership. In September 2024, Iran and South Africa took a significant step toward deepening their energy cooperation during the BRICS energy ministers' meeting in Moscow. During this meeting, Iran's energy minister explicitly stated that Iran is ready to share its nuclear knowledge with BRICS nations, including South Africa. This offer goes beyond nuclear energy alone. Iran has also proposed collaborations in solar and wind power, areas where South Africa is actively expanding. The Iranian government has positioned itself as a leader in alternative energy solutions, despite being one of the world's largest oil and gas producers. This dual approach, developing nuclear while also investing in renewables, resonates with South Africa's energy strategy. Iran's research into energy storage and grid stability could be particularly useful for South Africa, which is struggling with an outdated power infrastructure that is unable to handle the fluctuations in electricity demand. South Africa and Iran are not only discussing nuclear power, but also broader energy cooperation that includes smart grids and renewable energy solutions. Iran has experience in developing advanced electrical grids that allow for better management of energy distribution, something South Africa desperately needs. Frequent power shortages have made it clear that South Africa's current grid system is inefficient, leading to significant losses in energy transmission. Iran's technological solutions in smart energy management could help South Africa modernize its grid, ensuring that electricity is distributed more efficiently and that power shortages are minimized. Iran's approach to renewable energy is another area where collaboration could be beneficial. Iran has invested heavily in solar and wind power, technologies that South Africa is also developing. However, South Africa has faced challenges in integrating renewable energy into its grid due to the lack of large-scale energy storage systems. Iran's research in this field could provide solutions that would allow South Africa to harness more of its renewable energy potential while maintaining a stable electricity supply. Beyond the technical aspects, South Africa's willingness to work with Iran sends a clear message to the global energy market. Historically, Western nations, particularly the US and France, have dominated Africa's nuclear energy sector. By partnering with Iran, South Africa is signaling that it will not be bound by Western influence in its energy decisions. If this partnership moves forward, it could encourage other BRICS nations to develop nuclear energy without relying on Western companies. This could be a major turning point in how nuclear projects are developed across Africa, shifting control from Western corporations to alternative alliances like BRICS. The deeper integration of Iran into Africa's energy sector would also have long-term consequences, as it would strengthen Iran's economic and political ties with African nations while providing South Africa with greater leverage in negotiating future energy deals. However, this cooperation does not come without risks. The United States has long opposed Iran's nuclear program and has imposed strict sanctions on any country that does business with Iranian nuclear firms. If South Africa proceeds with an Iran-backed nuclear project, it could face economic and diplomatic consequences from the US and its allies. Washington has already expressed concerns over South Africa's growing ties with Russia and China, and adding Iran to the mix could escalate tensions further. The US could use trade policies, financial restrictions, or diplomatic pressure to discourage South Africa from engaging in nuclear cooperation with Iran. However, South Africa's government has taken an increasingly assertive stance in foreign policy, rejecting Western pressure on several occasions. The real question now is whether South Africa is willing to push forward despite these potential consequences, or if it will attempt to balance its alliances carefully while still securing its energy future. For South Africa, a partnership with Iran offers access to nuclear expertise, strategies for energy independence, and a potential model for self-sufficient power development. For Iran, working with South Africa strengthens its influence in Africa and within BRICS, allowing it to expand its economic ties in a region that has traditionally been dominated by Western influence. This cooperation is not just about nuclear energy. It represents a larger shift in global power dynamics. If South Africa successfully builds its nuclear capacity with Iran's help, it could set a precedent for other African nations to seek energy solutions outside of Western control. But how does Russia fit into this equation? If Iran is an emerging nuclear power that has defied sanctions to build self-sufficiency, then Russia is the established giant in the global nuclear energy sector. South Africa's willingness to consider Russia as a nuclear partner is not just about diplomatic ties within BRICS. It's about accessing world-class nuclear technology, financial flexibility, and long-term expertise in reactor construction. While South Africa is exploring multiple options for its planned 2,500-megawatt nuclear expansion, Russia's track record in building and financing nuclear projects across the world makes it one of the strongest contenders. Russia's state-owned nuclear corporation, Rosatom, is one of the most dominant forces in the nuclear energy sector. It has built reactors across Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. The company is currently working on more than 30 nuclear reactor projects worldwide, a level of expansion that no Western firm can match. Unlike Western nuclear firms that operate within strict financial and regulatory restrictions, Rosatom has the backing of the Russian government, allowing it to offer better financing deals, faster project execution, and long-term support, factors that make it highly attractive to countries looking to expand their nuclear energy sectors. South Africa and Russia have historical energy ties that go beyond nuclear. Moscow has been involved in several energy projects in Africa, from oil and gas to power infrastructure. Rosatom, in particular, has been actively engaged in Africa's nuclear sector for over a decade. In 2014, Russia and South Africa signed a cooperation agreement on nuclear energy, which included the potential construction of Russian-built nuclear reactors in South Africa. While that deal did not materialize at the time, Russia has remained a key energy player in Africa, assisting countries like Egypt and Angola in building nuclear facilities. One of the biggest reasons South Africa sees Russia as a serious nuclear partner is its ability to provide complete nuclear solutions. Unlike some Western companies that only offer certain technologies or demand control over nuclear fuel, Rosatom is known for its turnkey nuclear projects. This means Russia not only builds the reactors, but also supplies the fuel, trains engineers, and provides long-term maintenance. South Africa, which is still developing its nuclear expertise, could benefit from this full-package approach, ensuring that its nuclear expansion happens with minimal delays. Another major advantage of working with Russia is its flexible financing options. Nuclear power plants are extremely expensive to build, with costs often running into tens of billions of dollars. Many Western firms require countries to secure loans from Western financial institutions, which often come with strict conditions. Russia, however, is willing to finance nuclear projects directly through government-backed agreements. This means South Africa would not have to depend on Western banks, giving it greater financial independence. The fact that Russia has successfully helped finance nuclear plants in countries with limited financial capacity, such as Bangladesh and Egypt, makes it a viable choice for South Africa, which is still recovering from its economic struggles. The biggest question now is, will South Africa push forward despite all obstacles, or will external pressures force it to reconsider? The decision made in the next few months will determine whether the country truly achieves energy independence or remains locked in global energy politics for decades to come. Do you think the US can stop this partnership? Let us know in the comment section. Should South Africa let the US interfere? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.